How's it going, everyone? It's me, Lone, and welcome to another edition of Hidden Details, the series where I show you a bunch of hidden and not so hidden details in Fallout 4. As always, I've credited my sources in the description, with the main one being the Fallout 4 wiki. Let's get started. For the first of many unmarked locations in this series, on one of the islands in Sanctuary Lake, you can find an infantry fighting vehicle, or IFV, surrounded by many radioactive barrels. In front of the IFV is a skeleton with an army helmet nearby, suggesting that this person was one of the personnel manning the IFV before his or her demise. Given the layout of these radioactive barrels, it is likely that this IFV was being used to transport the barrels and ultimately dump them into Sanctuary Lake. But the job was clearly never finished. The Fallout 4 wiki suggests that this was a failed attempt to dispose of the irradiated material after the Great War, but ultimately we're not actually sure when this task was being carried out and how the army personnel died. Did they die due to radiation poisoning from the barrels? Were the barrels being dumped right when the nuke was being dropped on the Boston area during the Great War? Also, why were the barrels being dumped in the first place, if that is indeed what was occurring? Speaking of the infantry fighting vehicles, these first appeared in Fallout 4 and then later in Fallout 76. They were used before the Great War not just to transport personnel and equipment, but also to provide some offensive capabilities, given the multiple guns attached to the vehicle. Interestingly, in the game files, however, these vehicles are referred to as Armored Personnel Carriers, or APCs. So, which is the correct designation, APC or IFV? The answer is that infantry fighting vehicles are a form or derivation of armoured personnel carriers. The Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe, for instance, defines an APC as an armoured combat vehicle which is designed and equipped to transport a combat infantry squad and which, as a rule, is armed with an integral or organic weapon of less than 20mm caliber. Now, since the vehicles in Fallout 4 look to have multiple guns in excess of 20mm, specifically one 105mm gun and a pair of ball-mounted 76mm guns, according to the Fallout 4 wiki, the proper classification is more likely an infantry fighting vehicle, especially if its primary purpose before the Great War was indeed to provide fire support. Now, if their role before the Great War was more to provide transportation, then there is an argument that the APC designation is more accurate. This too is convincing as the vehicles are properly shielded, enabling them to transport radioactive waste, as this unmarked location clearly indicates. Let me know what you think in the comments below. In the previous episode, I showed you this toilet southwest of Sanctuary which was being used as a makeshift tent. However, upon revisiting this location, I noticed 7 frag mines clustered together just before the toilet. These were not there before, and that's because this is actually an instance of a random encounter either called a simple minefield or choke point mines, where at random locations a group of mines can be found on the ground which must be disarmed very quickly together. Now, the Fallout 4 wiki suggests that a group of specifically 7 mines together is actually an indication of a choke point mine random encounter, but either way, you'll need to act quick if you want to safely grab all these mines to use or sell them later. West of Concord, you can find a ranger's cabin. Before the Great War, this was used by the US Forest Service as indicated by the symbol on the side of the building, who were responsible for protecting the United States forests across the country. Inside, you can find the Runaways holotape, which details the tragic story of a girl who had an unfortunate confrontation with her parents, which forced her to run away. The confrontation was due to the girl telling her parents a secret of some kind, which caused her dad to shout and her mum to cry. We never find out what this secret was, but it forced her to pack her things, leave her home, and find shelter inside the cabin. What's even more sad about this story is that the girl recorded the holotape just one day before the Great War on October 22, 2077, and the nuke must have dropped while she was sleeping, as her remains can still be found on the mattress in a sleeping position. So, this girl's last interaction with her parents was awful, and she never got the opportunity to properly say goodbye or even I love you to them. The Great War simply never gave them a chance to reconcile. East of the Wicked Shipping Fleet lockup is an unmarked location with a simple shack. It is again possible that this location was used by the ally we've spoken about in previous episodes, who, as a lot of you suggested, is in all likelihood Deacon. What I like about this location is the simple fact that whoever was here had a thing for smoking cigarettes, with a carton of cigarettes, a pack of cigarettes, several individual cigarettes, and even a cigar left on the table. And this is all in direct opposition to the please no smoking sign literally inside of the shack. I think this is an instance of a BGS dev just making a little joke. Now, at the Wicked Shipping Fleet lockup itself, here you can find a nice little Easter egg referencing Fallout 3. Inside one of the blue trailers with 3 radioactive barrels, head to the back and you can see a teddy bear inside of a crate. In front of the crate are 4 wooden blocks displayed in such a way to spell out Gary. Gary, of course, was the name of the clones inside of Vault 108 in Fallout 3. The purpose of this vault, naturally, was to run experiments on one man, Gary, over and over and over. Gary was at least cloned over 50 times, with each clone showing an increased level of aggression. At some point, it's clear the hostile Gary clones proved too much for the Vault staff to handle, as when you enter the location, only Gary clones and some creatures remain, who are naturally still hostile, attack you on sight, and constantly keep saying their name, Gary. Speaking about the Wicked Shipping Fleet lockup more generally, the location has an interesting backstory. The shipping business was founded by brothers Tim and Blake Flynn, and, naturally, its purpose was to ship goods across the Commonwealth utilising its fleet of trucks. According to the official Fallout 4 guide, the brothers were actually out on deliveries when the bombs dropped. So, all of the skeletons remaining at the location are likely the rest of the business's workers. However, some of the skeletons are found in interesting positions, such as the one on top of the buildings next to a duffel bag filled with a bunch of pre-war money. So, what was really going on here? According to the Wicked Business holotape, it looks like the brothers were in bed with Eddie Winter, a mob boss who is actually still alive in the Commonwealth, living as a ghoul. Eddie had some sort of deal with the brothers and even threatened to kill them, causing Tim to want to shut down the business and get out of Dodge. Judging by the aforementioned duffel bag, it seems a lot of money was at play here. And later in the game, you then learn more about their business in a holotape labeled To Claire, where Eddie states that the Finn brothers were actually smuggling radioactive material, and Eddie managed to get some of the material in order to turn into a ghoul. Fallout 4 has 8 models for keys in the game, and one of the models is represented by the Wicked Shipping Trailer key, which is adorned by a miniaturized Nuka-Cola Quantum bottle, which also lights up just like the real thing. As we progress in this series, I'll point out the other types of key models as and when they first appear. What's specifically great about this Wicked Shipping Trailer key is that it can actually be used to unlock the Wicked Shipping trailers throughout the Commonwealth. So be sure to pick up this key earlier on in the game so you can open the trailers when you do encounter them. As indicated by a terminal entry at the Red Rocket truck stop, employees of the store used to use the nearby mole rat den to hide waste barrels before the Great War. Inspectors would check each Red Rocket truck stop for their waste reduction levels, and would even hand out awards to the stores who were the most compliant. These awards were called Trashbusters Awards, and the truck stop next to Sanctuary Hills was actually handed the award for the greatest year-to-year waste reduction by a single store due to how often they dumped waste in the mole rat den. And, somewhat ironically, the store also dumped the award itself in the mole rat den, and you can read it there if you'd like. On a shelf inside of one of the houses in Concord, you can find a red bandana and welding goggles. This is very intentional from the devs, as you just had the ability to recruit Dogmeat at the Red Rocket station before, and these are both pieces of apparel which you can equip Dogmeat to wear. We all know that the Galaxy News Radio was the main radio station in Fallout 3, so why doesn't it exist in the Commonwealth, especially when advertisements and posters for the Galaxy News network are hung up everywhere? Well, technically, it actually does. The Silver Shroud Radio, hosted by Kent Connolly and broadcasted around the area of Goodneighbor, is indeed part of the Galaxy News network, as indicated by the pre-war GNR intro that plays in between each episode of the Silver Shroud. In the town of Concord, you can find a church, simply called Concord Church. Bethesda Game Studios seemingly didn't want the model for this building to go to waste because it was copied and pasted right into Fallout 76. This can be found in the town of Helvetia, where it also stands as a church, but one that's since been converted into a shrine for the Mothman. There are also some other minor differences between the two churches, but virtually they are identical. You'll of course find this occurring a lot between Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, such as with many of the in-game paintings. There is indeed a way to get immediate access to the roof of the Museum of Freedom without needing to enter the front door. All you need to do is head to the roof of Concord Church and jump onto the vertibird which crashed into the roof of the building. After doing so, you'll be able to access the building using the door on the roof, and if you really want, it gives you early access to both the power armor and the minigun, if you'd like to use it on the raiders waiting inside. This is also going to change the conversation that you have with Sturgis inside, as he will comment that, "I had a whole fancy plan about fixing up a suit of power armor, and here you are, walking in like some kind of metal miracle." If you also grab the minigun, your player will also say to Sturgis, "Actually, I got a minigun right here, we're set." Vault-Tec lunchboxes can often spawn with the name of children written across the face of them. For instance, the name on this one I found in Concord Civic Access is Connor, but the other names include, in alphabetical order, Acadia, Adriana, Anna, Becky, Cole, Donna, Grisha, Jack, Jade, June, Nick, Sage, Simon, Stan, Zane, and Ziggy. And yes, if you ever do want to try and obtain one of the rare items inside of a lunchbox, you are able to reload a save and it will always generate an item randomly upon opening. I for one won't stop until I obtain either a Nuka-Cola Quantum or a collectible robot model. In Concord Civic Access, you can find a skeleton holding sugar bombs with a wooden spoon next to its hand. At least this person was eating some delicious cereal before they died. Wright's Inn in the town of Concord is also based off a real-life location called Wright's Tavern, also in the town of Concord, Massachusetts. Concord in Fallout 4 isn't short of these real-life references either, especially because it was based on the actual town. As another example, the entering Concord sign in the game is almost an exact copy of the same sign used throughout the town in real life. You can fairly easily gain access to the roof of the Concord Speakeasy by heading to the balcony of Wright's Inn and climbing in this direction to eventually squeeze your way into the roof. This is definitely something that was not intended on Bethesda's part, as when you look outside of the windows while in the building, you can enjoy the incredible view of clipping and missing textures. Although, this effect can occur a lot throughout the game. For instance, if you head to the stairs of Wright's Inn and look through this hole on the wall, you can again see the missing textures in the outside world. Inside the Concord Speakeasy, you can find several skeletons in some fairly compromising positions before they died. For instance, check out this dude on the bed with his arm draped around a female mannequin. Who really knows what was going on in there? Though, what's more likely to have actually occurred is that an unknown NPC went into the speakeasy and placed the mannequins in these positions themselves after everyone inside had already died, as suggested by this one scene where 3 mannequins holding weapons are surrounding a skeleton without a head inside of a bathtub, and the skeleton skull? It's in the toilet. Perhaps a raider was just really bored in Concord. The Pulaski Preservation Centers in Fallout 4 will play pre-recorded messages from the Preservation Services Company, welcoming people inside of the shelter. If you listen carefully, the music used during these recordings are some of the same tracks which featured in Fallout 3's Enclave Radio, including the tracks Marine's Hymn, Yankee Doodle, Dixie, and more. Motorcycles in Fallout 4 are named Lone Wanderer, which of course is the same name as the protagonist in Fallout 3. The Join or Die poster featured in several locations like the Red Rocket Station and the Museum of Freedom is referencing a political cartoon of the same name by Benjamin Franklin, published in the Pennsylvania Gazette on 9 May 1754. The cartoon, originally commenting on the disunity of the 13 colonies during the French and Indian War, was then used as a tool to unite the colonies during the American Revolutionary War as a way to spur the troops and help obtain independence. Inside of the Museum of Freedom on the 3rd floor, you can see a painting of a man riding a white horse. That man is none other than Todd Howard himself, director of Fallout 4 and head of Bethesda Game Studios. Thanks to some hard sleuthing by those who contributed to the Fallout 4 wiki, many of the real-life references on the large mural inside of the Museum of Freedom have been identified. For instance, the mural depicts the USS Missouri and Boeing B-29 Superfortress, which both served in World War II, the M46 Baton tank used in the Cold War, and both the Royal Aircraft Factory SE-5 biplane and Tank Mark 8, which both served in World War I. The terminal that Sturgis is using in the Museum of Freedom has a bunch of text which continually scrolls up the screen. While most of the lines are simple error messages, if you have a keen eye, you will be able to read some hidden messages which seem a little bit out of place, such as the lines, "Please save yourselves," "It's the end," and in apocalyptic situations, "Please reboot system error," "There's no one left, is there," or "God." And that's all from me, Wastelanders. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if I missed any hidden or not so hidden details in the comments below, and until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.